They said she smelled like violets, but no one ever asked why. In the sleepy Austrian spa town of Bad Ischl, nestled between alpine lakes and once graced by emperors, locals still speak in hushed tones about Margaretha Koenig, a woman whose soft voice, gentle hands, and violet perfume masked one of the most chilling killing sprees in Central European history. By the time she was caught in 1948, Greta was responsible for at least 17 poisonings, including her husband, 2 daughters, a neighbor, and numerous convalescent soldiers who had trusted her as a caregiver. But what makes Greta's story particularly disturbing is not just the body count. It's how nobody suspected her until it was far too late. Greta Koenig was a very image of post-war elegance. Slim, soft-spoken, always dressed in muted gray or lavender, she moved like a ghost through the corridors of her modest villa on their Scienstrasse, where she offered discreet care for fragile men, mostly returning officers of the Wehrmacht who suffered from nervous exhaustion, shell shock, or terminal illnesses. Her home smelled faintly of fresh linen, beeswax, and always violets. She was a healer, said one neighbor. People trusted her more than they trusted doctors. But behind that porcelain smile and carefully arranged teacups, Greta carried a different gift. One passed down from her mother, a pharmacist assistant during the Habsburg era. It wasn't long before Greta began using what she knew of arsenic, belladonna, and foxglove. Not to heal, but to harm. It started with her husband, Dr. Alaric Koenig, in 1937. He had a reputation for being controlling, prone to violent outbursts. One evening, after dinner, he fell into convulsions and died before dawn. The cause was ruled as a sudden stroke. Greta wept at the funeral in a black veil. Clutched by her 2 daughters, Brigitta and Elena, she received a generous life insurance payout and the sympathy of an entire town. The real twist came 2 years later, when 10-year-old Brigitta, previously healthy, also began suffering from violent stomach cramps and blurred vision. Doctors were baffled. Greta told them it was likely hereditary. Brigitta died in her sleep 3 weeks later. Then came Elena. Same symptoms, same death. Only this time, the local priest, who had grown suspicious, refused to grant a full Catholic burial, citing divine signs. Greta left the town for nearly 2 years after that. In 1942, Greta returned with new purpose. Her home was now a rest clinic for elite military officers. She took in up to 3 patients at a time, usually men without family, soldiers recovering from wounds, terminally ill bachelors. Every one of them praised her food, her soft voice, and the comforting aroma of violets that always followed her down the hallway. And every one of them died. Over the course of 6 years, 11 men passed through Greta's care and left in pine boxes. She claimed they were already too sick to recover. She sent sympathy letters to their next of kin. She was called the Angel of Quiet Endings. It wasn't until Corporal Lucas Brenner, a 24-year-old burn victim, died within just 2 days of arriving that the whispers began. In March 1948, the niece of one of Greta's patients, a young woman named Anneliese Hartmann, visited unexpectedly and noticed something strange. Her uncle's spoon had a pale green residue. She took it to a chemist in Vienna, and what came back shattered the illusion of Greta's innocence. Arsenic, lethal dosage, freshly mixed. The authorities were contacted. When they raided Greta's villa, they found more than just poisoned teacups. In the basement, they discovered a locked cabinet containing dozens of labeled vials of arsenic, strychnine, and belladonna, handwritten diaries detailing symptoms, doses, and timing, an envelope containing death certificates, forged or altered, and beneath the floorboards, a decomposed body, believed to be a lodger who had threatened blackmail. Greta's trial was a national sensation. Dubbed the Perfumed Widow by the press, she remained calm, reserved, and even charming in the courtroom. "I never hurt anyone who didn't want to die," she said in one chilling interview. "I gave them peace." Isn't that mercy? But the prosecutors didn't buy it. The poisonings were calculated, cold, and often financially motivated. Greta had not only collected life insurance, but inherited heirlooms and pensions. She was ultimately convicted of 17 murders, though investigators believe the real number may have been higher, up to 23. She was sentenced to life in prison, where she died in 1953, reportedly still smelling faintly of violet. Today, Bad Ischl doesn't talk about Greta Koenig. The house was torn down in the 1970s. But urban legends say if you walk along their Scienstrasse at dusk, you can still catch the faint scent of violets and hear the creak of a teacup being stirred. Because Greta didn't scream. She didn't stab. She didn't chase. She smiled and she waited. She was, as one investigator said, the softest serial killer the world has ever seen. Subscribe for more bone-chilling tales of silent killers, twisted minds, and unsolved crimes. Because in the world of true crime, the quiet ones are the ones to fear most.